have been sexually abused. And if we can just come and show them their restoration and their love. And we had the great opportunity in that Wildflower program to go around the country and tape the top professionals that deal with the healing and restoration of Christ towards people that have been sexually abused. So on that program, we have John Eldridge, Dr. Diane Langberg, Dr. Timothy Clinton. I could go on and on. We have about 40 different experts that we've asked to be on that program. It was quite an undertaking. I'd never worked with film before, but God caused me to come on this crazy journey. And that program in itself, the reason why it took about 7 years to develop was it cost about $225,000 to create that, because we really wanted to honor the women and men that were sexually abused, and we wanted to create a beautiful program for them. So those Wildflower groups are all over the United States now, and like I said, we're finishing the one on the trauma of abortion. And I guess I look back, and I, as Lynn, am always reminded of the love of God. When I was in the depths of my pain, I was living in a rooming house in Minneapolis, and I was poor as could be. You know, I was working on the street as a prostitute, and whenever I could have a room, I'd find a room to be able to lay my head down. And I remember just for months, I ate Wheaties. That's all I could afford was a box of Wheaties. I couldn't even afford the milk. And so it was just a very, very desperate time in my life. But I remember one night in particularly, it was, I was about 21 years old and was really at the depths of my pain. My best friend, who I partied with, her name is Becky, she would always say to me, she'd grab my face and she'd say, "Julie, we're looking for something." And I always wondered, what did she mean, we're looking for something? And anyway, she said, "We're looking for something together." And I didn't really know what that meant. But in this awful time in my life, my friend Becky had just been murdered. And it was just a horrendous time in my life. And I remember that night in particular, just going from church to church, trying to get into the church and pray and ask questions. God, where did Becky go? You know, did she go to heaven? Did she go to hell? I was so confused. And shortly after that night, we had her funeral, which was just a horrible experience. All these people sitting around her grave. And after that night, my life just hit rock bottom with the drugs and the alcohol and then the promiscuity. And I made a vow in that time of my life. And I said, every night I'm going to have a bottle of booze and a different man. And for years, I accomplished that goal. And, but one night in particular, I didn't have a bottle and I didn't have a man, and I absolutely hit my pain. I hit my pain, and this was a special night when I would take my life. And so I remember I just wandered back and forth from the medicine cabinet to the bed and just dug my fingernails into my hands to take my life. And I dug my fingernails in so hard that my hands were just bleeding. And I just said, no, no. And I threw the bottle of pills into the waste paper basket. And finally, I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed myself to sleep. And when I was sound asleep in the middle of the night, I heard a voice. And that voice said, "Julie, I love you." And it got louder and louder until I was wide awake. And it said, "Julie, I love you." And I can still hear that voice. And it woke me up, and it said, "Julie, I love you." And it was persistent, and it was loving. And please understand, I'm not a schizophrenic. I'd never heard voices before. But I knew that this voice was true. And I knew that whoever or whatever this voice was, that it truly loved me. And you see, that was an amazing understanding, because I felt like the chief of sinners. I had slept with hundreds of men. I'd had 2 abortions. And I said before, I talked many into others into having abortions. But I decided that I was going to take every ounce of the energy that I had left in my body, and I was going to find who or what could ever love me. And for the next 2 years, every time life just hit the rock bottom, that voice would come back and it would say, "Julie, I love you." And thank God I found out who or what could love me, and that voice was Jesus Christ. He was pursuing me relentlessly. He did not give up on me. He didn't want me to die. And you see, that's why I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to start over. So when I heard what Jesus did on the cross for me, you know, that I could start all over. I didn't have to commit suicide. My sins could be forgiven, and they were at the foot of the cross, and that was the absolutely best news I could ever find. And so it was just very fascinating to watch. When I became a Christian, all of these people just came around me and loved me. I had places to go for holidays, because for many, many holidays I was all by myself in my pathetic little rooming house with my little TV dinner, you know, those little Swanson's TV dinners with the peach cobbler on the side. Those are my holidays, but all these people came around me and loved me and pursued me. And if I could just let anybody know that, you know, there are Christians out there that can love them. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, I've had some Christians that have really betrayed me. There are Christians that will betray you. There are churches that will hurt you. We're all human. But there are people that God will put in your path to absolutely love you, no matter what the worst of sins are. They will come beside you and love you. And it's great to sit here and see some pastors in the group, because there are some holy men and women out there that will love you and pursue you. So again, I just want to thank you for having us here today, and we'd love for you to, our greatest desire with Restoring the Heart Ministries is to come alongside the broken, such as LYNNE, and we have many men and women coming alongside and beginning to really understand their deep sexual abuse wounds, the wounds from abortion. If we can just come alongside you, we have a desire to run towards the traumatized, not run away, to run towards and bring the love of God. I just read a book, was reading a book this week by Rob Bell, and he talks about charging into hell and bringing in heaven. And that's what I desire to do when I go into these exotic dancing clubs and work with the prostitutes and the women that have been in the middle of sexual trafficking. I just feel the holiness of God just usher me in. And like I said before, we're planning a big fashion show just to love them, show them their dignity, show them that God created them beautiful as women, and they can be dignified. And so please come alongside of us to Crest Hollow Country Club May 13th. We'd love for you to come and just love on these women. We're looking for people to come to the event, to sell things at that event on May 13th. But more than anything, just to come in and just pull these women and men out, to love on them and give them a frame of reference that they've never known before, that even if their families had left them. In fact, it was interesting. I was in there about a month ago, and many of the women that I had gotten to know from Poland and Russia that were there being sexual trafficked disappeared. And I said to one of the men that I had gotten to know there, I said, where did they go? Where did those beautiful Russian women go, and those women from Poland? And he said, if they don't find jobs, then they're pushed underground into sexual prostitution. And if we can just come alongside these beautiful young women and help them see their dignity. And it's interesting as well when I go into this place that they have a common dream, and that dream is they're in a dark, place, and they know they're in an awful place. They know it's evil, and the dream is that they see the door open, all this light comes shining in, and Jesus reaches out and grabs them and takes them out of this place. And I remember a couple of them have come up to me and they said, "Did Jesus send you? Did Jesus send you to take us out of here?" And I guess that's my prayer. If he can send us to take these women out of here and know that they are loved and they're cherished. So I want to thank you that we could be on here today, Arise and Shine. Again, our website is restoringtheheartministries.com. Like I said before, I was on the 700 Club not too long ago if you want to hear more about my story. If you want to come alongside us and let us love you, or if you have the desire to love others that have been in trauma, we'd love for you to come and be part of what we're doing. Our